and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Jerick Show, your weekly dose of cybersecurity things, timely topics poorly presented. In this week's show, we will talk about Ukrainian coffee shops. We will talk about someone who does not take security seriously, some jacking in your juice, and we wrap up with a company that refuses to negotiate with tourists. All this and more.
Welcome to The Jerick Show, featuring your hosts, Javvad Malik and Eric Krohn. Timely topics, poorly presented.
Yes. Timely topics, poorly presented indeed. But before we continue, allow me to introduce my co-presenter, my co-host, a man whose talents actually knows no bounds, whose wit is sharp, and whose hair could teach Rapunzel a thing or two. Please welcome Eric Krohn. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Did you say in the intro refuses to negotiate with tourists? Is that what you said in that?
I said tourists. I was trying to do the George Bush, like we do not negotiate with tourists.
It sounded like tourists.
Well, yeah.
Who doesn't want to negotiate with tourists, right?
No, do not negotiate with tourists, especially, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is good to be here for another week. It's God, we've been doing this for quite a while now. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
What episode number are we on? Do you know?
I don't know. It's 100 and something. I don't know, 120 or
someone else's job to keep up with this stuff.
Right. I mean, we don't keep track of that anymore like we did in the beginning. We used to always do the episode number, but that took away from our wonderful headlines, especially on LinkedIn, where it only allows a couple of characters. But no, we've been doing this for quite some time. And if you recall, this kicked off after RSA, which is coming up in another, not this weekend, but like 2 weeks from now. It's going to be RSA time.
Yeah.
It's wow. That was a couple of years ago, man. That was 3 years ago then that we did wow. So I think we're picking up about 4 followers a year.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Okay, so before we delve even more into the old men reminiscing about the good old days episode, let's jump into the first story we have today. So Russian hackers target security cameras inside Ukrainian coffee shops. And I was like, wow, they still have coffee shops up and running in Ukraine, and they have CCTV cameras that are internet connected, all up and running. And I suppose, it's again, like, I don't know the scale of the war in Ukraine. I don't know how many cities are actually, untouched by war, so to speak, directly, like they haven't admitted. But yeah, this is another one for the sort of like a cyber meeting or being used in the kinetic realm, because apparently these camera footages are used to collect intelligence on who's passing through where. So who needs a satellite up in the air when you can just like log on to these CCTV cameras or people's ring doorbells or what have you, if that, and then like see, there's General so-and-so walking, being escorted through here and with this many tanks and this many jeeps and what have you. So I think it's a really interesting move where you're using civilian-owned just infrastructure, like poorly secured IoT stuff, to actually help you with your intel gathering in times of war. So I think it's really interesting. What are your thoughts, Eric?
Totally thought about IoT because, we know that IoT's out there. We know that all this stuff is put in there. And frankly, the cameras, the technology behind cameras these days is getting pretty crazy. And I'll give you an example. I've seen this actually in some airports. I don't remember exactly which one, but also last night we went to a local baseball game. It was a pro game, the Tampa Bay Rays. And they have this area where you can go buy drinks or whatever, right? But basically what you do is you scan your credit card going in, and then there are cameras like every couple of feet above your head. They track everywhere you go. the like refrigerators and stuff where they keep the drinks tracks what you do. So you grab a couple of those and you just walk out the other side and it automatically charges you because it's tracking where you're going, what you're picking up, and what you're taking with you all through the cameras and actually charging you for it. It's pretty wild how far we've come with camera technology and what it can be used for. So I can see exactly why they would want to try to get into these IoT devices and something like this.
No, you're absolutely right. It's like Ring, the doorbells.
Yeah.
They've got this feature on it where like automatically recognize some faces so that it does a different action. And it also has like this package detection thing. So if it notices like there's an Amazon package there, it will notify you and it's like, you know, UPS like threw your package into the bushes. Or they did.
So I have cameras around my house here, and I use something on the back end called Blue Iris. It's the recording software and all that, because I use these cameras that are known to maybe have backdoors or call home to China, right? So they're on their own network with that recording device, and everything stays off the internet that way. But what's interesting is even that software has an AI component that you can add that will identify dog, cat, car. Like it actually blocks stuff off and it can see stuff going by. And I haven't delved too much into it, but if I'm not mistaken, yeah, you can identify down to individuals. And maybe as somebody walks up to the front door, you see that it's a person, you want to turn on your outside lights if it's after dark, right? You can automate things based on what it's picking up, you know, but if it's a dog, you don't necessarily want to turn on your lights, or if it's a car going by, right? So it's pretty interesting how far we've come with this stuff without even necessarily realizing just how advanced this stuff is, even in the consumer side.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And I think we'll only see more and more of these kinds of things as the research develops and people try more and more things, and you can say like I can daisy chain certain things together, then it becomes quite, you know, the potential becomes quite huge.
Yep, absolutely. I would agree with that.
So normally when a company gets breached, what's the first thing they say?
It wasn't credit cards.
We take.
Oh, yeah. We take security seriously.
Yeah. But we've now got the anti story where FTX, the crypto exchange that imploded last year in like the most worst way possible. So there's a report and it's saying their cybersecurity was hilariously bad, which kind of actually boils down to it was non-existent. The FTX group had no independent CISO, no employee with appropriate training or experience tasked with fulfilling the responsibilities of such a role, and no established processes for assessing cyber risk, implementing cyber security controls, or responding to cyber incidents in real time. As with critical controls in other areas, the FTX group grossly deprioritized and ignored cybersecurity controls, a remarkable fact given that, in essence, their entire business, assets, infrastructure, intellectual property comprised of computer code and technology. Wow. If that's
YOLO. That's all I can think of, right? YOLO.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, wow. How do you... We're talking billions of dollars and stuff in what they had going on here, and just woefully inadequate. And let's even think about this, like the crypto side of things. These are not non-targeted people dealing with crypto, right? Of all the things out there that's like serious attacks against SIM swapping and stuff like that, it's the crypto goobers that end up being targeted by like some real stuff. It's kind of crazy that they just went, we can save, a few bucks by not doing that.
Yeah. So they had no staff. They never used cold storage. Private keys were left unencrypted. They didn't use MFA and much more.
It makes me think, though, if you are investing in crypto or something high value, okay, even like stocks, bonds, whatever, you're doing stuff with that or what have you. How do you reach out to them? How do you have them prove their security? You just kind of assume that they have security in place. Like, I don't know that I would ever go to a crypto exchange and go, I would like to see your SOC 2 report, or something.
Yeah.
You just assume certain things are in place, but maybe that time of assumption is over.
Yeah. So the only way you can really do this is either you have to introduce some sort of regulation. So just like the banking industry is regulated as a whole. Otherwise, you're going to have any crypto bro just putting up like, hey, military grade security here, folks.
Military grade. We're going to do that again, right? You say military grade. That always busts me up because being ex-military, my view of military grade is like barely held together. It's a whole different story if you've been.
But it was held together, which is completely not the case.
Good point. Oh, Lord have mercy.
From one epic failure to another, there's a public service announcement that's been doing the rounds that public phone charging points are malware magnets. Bad actors are increasingly hijacking public charging points in airports and malls to infect devices with malware that can steal sensitive data. What a load of baloney. And this is put out by the FBI in Denver. And it's so, not to say that this doesn't work in theory.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I find it difficult enough with a legit passport and visa and boarding pass to get into an airport as it is. For me or someone to break into an airport with cables and stuff, and airports are probably like amongst the most heavily monitored areas out there. You go to these public charging points, you disassemble their thing, you put in your wires, and then you sit there connecting to it, or you have to come back to it to retrieve the information. Why? Because now you've caught some random travelers shopping list and that I'm flying to New York. These are all the things I want to do, their itinerary or what have you. It just does not add up.
Even not in airports, though. I don't think I've actually ever heard of this happening in the real world. And I actually used to do a slide on this years ago, though. I mean, this is years ago. I was doing a slide on this that said it's something to consider, right? And they have those things called USB condoms that remove the data cables from your USB-A port. So it's just power, which is okay, but you can't fast charge that way. But ultimately, after all these years of not seeing something happen, I just always feel like this is FUD.
Yeah.
Now, where I do think it's a little bit like I've seen this happen actually at a security conference. They had one of those tables set up where it was charge your phone here, and your phone's half dead. So what do? You go plug it in. Well, these people were plugging in their phones at a security conference and then walking away to get in the line for the buffet, out of line of sight, and spending like 15 or 20 minutes getting through the buffet line. I mean, that's a bad practice. Like leaving your device plugged in and just walking away from it for 20 minutes or so. That's just a bad practice. And that bothered me more than the potential for somebody to have broken in and put these whatever kinds of, juice jacket boxes behind it. So in theory, it can absolutely happen. And I think they even at the Wall of Sheep at DEF CON one time, they had something set up at the Wall of Sheep and people would come plug in their phone. And even there, they were like, are you a fool? You're at the Wall of Sheep where we shame people for doing stupid things on Wi-Fi. And you're going to plug into a USB device at this table, right?
Yes.
That kind of stuff. I mean, it's good to be aware of it and to think about it a little bit and just consider potential threats. But I've been seeing this on the local news here. Like on our 6 o'clock news, it's coming on. They're talking about juice jacking. And this happens every couple of years. It seems to go through a cycle. But it's all FUD, folks. Like if any of our viewers or listeners have actually seen this in the wild, I would love to know.
Yeah. And the only time I think this has any value, if you're a high value individual, say like you're Tim Cook or CEO of a massive company or something, then maybe I could imagine a movie like this where you're being rushed from your office into your waiting limo, and someone like Margot Robbie bumps against you, switches out your cable for their cable, so the next time you plug it in, they can track you or steal your company ass. Kind of like the only scenario I can imagine where something like this might be of concern. But then these people have close quarters protection, and they're the people that normally get this sort of intel report, say, okay, look out for this.
Well, and frankly, I can see the cables being more of an issue because they have a Bluetooth transmitter in it. Somebody could just be sitting across from you trying to pull stuff off. I could actually see that as more of an issue than a USB port stuck into a wall or something like that. That to me is where we're crossing that line into just being absolutely unrealistic and really not a threat. But there's a way to solve all of this, Javad.
Oh,
yeah. Carry one of your own little freaking battery packs that you can get off Amazon for $20. If you need to charge, exactly. I mean, really, come on. Even if this is on your threat radar at all, there's a $20 solution for this whole problem. And, just keep that thing charged or plug a charger into that thing and charge it while your phone is plugged into the other side. Who cares at that point?
I'll tell you why I've got this battery pack on my desk, because my monitor and everything uses up all my PowerPoints, and I'm too lazy to take my phone 2 feet over there to plug it in over there. So I just charge it from my battery pack on my desk when I need to. See,
what are we
efficiency, people?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so on to a good story. Latitude, the lender from down under. And they've had a rough time of their attack, and like they started to they were blocked from taking on new customers because there wasn't confidence in their systems were clean and what have you. But they've done a good move here. It's a Billy Big Balls move right here. Like they just said no, we are not going to
pay the ransom. Yeah,
pay the ransom.
And I love that. And we got to give kudos to folks that stand up for this. I mean, this hurts when somebody does this. I read a story recently. They said about 83% of impacted organizations end up paying the ransom or end up paying a ransom, which I'm like, ooh, that's pretty big. But of that, some of the stats I saw, I want to say 52% of them said they got all of their data back, or no, 52% of them lost at least some of their data when trying to decrypt and stuff like that. So it wasn't even like, doesn't even fix everything. You know what I mean? I mean, the numbers were pretty high, and it's pretty brutal because even if you do pay the ransom, there's a real good chance you're not going to get everything back. And to their point here, what they said was, you know what? It was about the extortion piece, not about recovering. And they said, you know what? We're dealing with criminals here, and they pinky swear that they're going to destroy our data, but there's no way to prove that they've destroyed the data or that they're not going to leak it in 6 months or a year or tomorrow out on the dark web. They said that would be the only reason we're paying. And there's really no reason to believe they would actually destroy the data they say they're going to destroy. So kudos to them for going, you know what? No, we're just not playing this game. And far too often we see, you and I, we beat up the folks that do poor responses.
Yep.
Okay. And actually we submitted a talk to B-Sides Las Vegas about this.
Yes.
But what not to do, when you have something like this go on. But far too often we see organizations really doing a bad job, and we call them out on it. I really wanted to point out somebody who's doing the right thing and taking a stand and saying, we're not going to do it. So kudos to you in the midst of all this crap for telling them to go pound sand.
See, what the criminals could do is say, like, I know paying X million is tough. Why don't we set up a payment plan or a subscription service where you just pay us like,
oh, for the love of all that's good,
pay us $100 a month for the next 5 years, and like, you know,
dude, I hate those because every once in a while they pop up on my phone. It's like, you've been billed, you know, whatever, $32 for it. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? Crap! It's too late. You know,
I know
I
it is
hate
too late.
subscriptions.
They are. And I saw this really good piece on the Wall Street Journal about this. If I just pull it up, people are sick and tired of their subscriptions. And then to continue reading, choose an option below.
Yeah,
I think that's
you have to subscribe. Already a subscriber? Sign.
Yeah.
People are sick of subscriptions, but you have to be a subscriber to read this. I love it.
Yeah, that's very meta. So, like, you know, with that, I'd say, like, please like and subscribe to our channel and leave your comments below. If you see any good stories during the week that you think that would make sense for us to cover, email them to erick@knowbefore.com and we will get on them.
I'd love to get input from people out there, or listeners and stuff like that, to cover some of those stories. Actually, I think that'd be a lot of fun. So send us some stuff you want us to cover. If it's cyber related, awesome. You know, that's what we look for. If it's ridiculous and cyber related, we will come up with something to say, you know, about it. Yeah. I'd love to see some of this.
All right, then. On that note, thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Eric. And with that, we'll see you.